The quarterback, the most important position in all of football. Today we take a look at the biggest quarterback transfers of the 2020 offseason as new faces look to lead new teams to a season they won't forget. Yeah. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, taking a look at the 9 major quarterback transfers from this past offseason. And while we do not have as many names on the board as we did last year, the names this year are much bigger. And do keep in mind that these quarterbacks here are not ranked in any sort of way. There's no rhyme or reason to the way they are listed here. We are just here to touch on these 9 quarterbacks and the impact they will have at their respective schools in this 2020 season. So we're going to begin up at the top with Joey Gatewood transferring to Kentucky from Auburn. And if you remember last year, there was a lot of speculation about who was going to be the starting quarterback at Auburn in 2019. A lot of people competing for that job. It ultimately went to Bo Nix. And it worked out pretty well for the Tigers. Joey Gatewood, after missing out on that job, after many thought he should have gotten the starting job, decided to transfer to the Wildcats, where he will most likely have to sit out this year, but will have 2 seasons of eligibility remaining with the Wildcats. So we got to keep that in mind for a little bit, guys. Kentucky, what Mark Stoops has done the past few years with the circumstances he's been dealt, especially last year with Lynn Bowden playing quarterback, he's done a remarkable job. Terry Wilson will be back this year, fully healthy, so they actually have a real quarterback under center. He leaves, and Joey Gatewood is going to take over for the next 2 years. So Kentucky football is in good shape for a long, long time. So we touch on him for a second. He won't play in 2020 most likely, but still one to keep an eye on and be prepared for in 2021. Right below him, we stick in the SEC, as we will all the way through Jamie Newman, but we take a look at KJ Costello, transferring from Stanford to Mississippi State. And we touched on him a little bit when we talked about Mike Leach and his decision to leave Washington State and go to Mississippi State to take on the challenges of the SEC and more specifically the SEC West. But Mike Leach's prayers were answered when Costello chose to transfer to Starkville. Because we all know for Mike Leach's system to work, for that air raid offense, pass-heavy offense to work, you have to have a quarterback. And he lands one that has solid starting experience in a Power 5 conference in the Pac-12. He has 1 year of eligibility remaining, but Costello threw for over 6,100 yards in his Stanford career, 49 touchdowns to just 18 interceptions, and didn't play much in 2019 due to injury. That's the only downfall to him coming to Mississippi State, is if he's not fully healthy, if he has to battle another injury, this experiment won't work out. But you pair Costello with Kylan Hill, who decided to return for 1 more year in Starkville at running back, Mike Leach's offense could be very dangerous in just his first year at the helm. So huge transfer for Mike Leach. Huge transfer for Mississippi State, as they had some quarterback issues all throughout last year. Now looking pretty solid for this upcoming season. Right below Costello, we have Felipe Franks, transferring to Arkansas from Florida. And like Costello, Franks will just have 1 year of eligibility remaining to play with the Razorbacks. But we know that Felipe Franks kind of had a tale of 2 careers at Florida. You look what he did in 2017, throwing for just 9 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, as Florida could not get anything offensively going under Jim McElwain. Dan Mullen steps in 2018, and Frank's stats jump to 24 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. His season, like Costello, was cut short in that win over Kentucky back in 2019. Got injured in that one. Kyle Trask took over. The rest is history. Franks has been prone to make bad decisions, has been prone to be a little immature, but like what we said with Mike Leach, this is a prayer answered for Sam Pittman and the Razorbacks, because Arkansas has not been able to find any sort of stability at quarterback over the past few seasons. Chad Morris never could find himself a quarterback. It was Cole Kelly, it was Ty Storey, it was Nick Starkel, it was Ben Hicks. Keep in mind, Arkansas had 2 transfer quarterbacks in last year's transfer portal, Hicks and Starkel. Neither worked out well for Arkansas. So Felipe Franks, a very big prayer answered for the Razorbacks, and getting a guy that has SEC playing experience under a great SEC coach and Dan Mullen will go a long way for them trying just to improve from back-to-back 2-10 seasons. And then finally, rounding out the SEC quarterback transfers, we kind of broke it up by conference here. We take a look at Jamie Newman transferring to Georgia, and this might be the biggest quarterback transfer of this entire offseason. When the 2020 season is all said and done, we will look back on this and say Jamie Newman was probably, depending on what happens with the rest of them, the biggest transfer that made the biggest impact at his respective school. Newman transferring from Wake Forest, 1 year of eligibility remaining. He takes over for Jake Fromm, who was a fantastic quarterback for Georgia. But we mentioned so many times last year how stagnant Georgia's offense seemed to be, especially about midway through the end of the season. Georgia never really could find that spark offensively, especially in the passing game. Newman's going to provide that spark. You're going to see a very different Georgia offense in 2020, good enough that they might be able to win it all. Kirby Smart has won the SEC East multiple times, has made the SEC championship multiple times, has made the national championship once, but never been able to get over the hump. It could be this year. And there was a lot of speculation coming into 2020 that this could be the year that Florida finally jumps Georgia to win the SEC East. The transfer of Newman to Athens was enough to keep Georgia above the Gators, at least for now. He had over 2,800 yards and 26 touchdowns at Wake Forest last year, over 570 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns last year on the ground. He's going to provide a major spark for this Georgia team that, as we know under Kirby Smart, is going to be one of the best in the entire country. So that is the name, maybe out of all the other names on this list, that you need to watch out for. The Bulldogs are looking really, really good going into this upcoming season. So we switch gears from the 4 SEC quarterbacks that we just talked about to just 2 in the Pac-12. And we start with Jake Bentley, who ironically is an SEC quarterback transferring out west. Bentley, I think, didn't get enough credit for the job that he did at South Carolina. 55 touchdowns, 32 interceptions, but 55 touchdowns in 3 years as a starter, over 7,500 yards during his time with the Gamecocks. Got hurt last year in the season opener. The job was given to Ryan Helinski, who did a fantastic job. Bentley decided to move out. And this is a perfect scenario, again, not just for Bentley, but also for Kyle Whittingham and the Utes, because Utah was a team that was in the Pac-12 championship last year, was 1 win away from making the college football playoff, and now lose their longtime quarterback starter in Tyler Huntley. He's gone. Bentley steps in. It's a perfect combination here, and just enough to keep Utah in contention for a Pac-12 title. If Bentley plays like Bentley did in his prime when he was fully healthy and when South Carolina was somewhat decent, then Utah is still going to be a team to watch out for in the Pac-12. So a big-time transfer there. Right below him, we look at Oregon. Utah and Oregon, the 2 teams that met in the Pac-12 championship last year. Oregon loses a bigger quarterback than Tyler Huntley. They lose Justin Herbert, who was arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country last year and will be one of the top quarterbacks selected in the NFL draft here in a few weeks. But Oregon lands Anthony Brown from Boston College, who, like many of these quarterbacks up here, will be immediately eligible. And to me, it's a perfect substitution for Justin Herbert. Now, Brown, unlike some of these other quarterbacks, is not guaranteed the starting job at Oregon. He's going to have to work for it. They've got a little bit of a quarterback battle going on. But to bring in a guy that has Power 5 playing experience, as Brown did play in the ACC, that does have a dual threat capability, that has accumulated 40 passing touchdowns in his career at Boston College, to me, gives Oregon a huge boost, and to me should be enough to give Anthony Brown the starting job for the Ducks and to keep them college football playoff contenders, because they certainly will be that in 2020. Brown spent a lot of time handing the ball off to A.J. Dillon. He spent a lot of time relying on Boston College's defense. Oregon's going to be the exact same way. potent running game, C.J. Ferdell, solid offensive line per usual, and a defense that is certainly going to carry Oregon this year. Brown seems like the perfect fit. Watch out for the Ducks. Once again, challenging to repeat as Pac-12 champions, but could very well make the college football playoff. And of course, he will also be working under Joe Moorhead, the former head coach at Mississippi State, who is now offensive coordinator at Oregon. Right below them, we have D'Eriq King in the ACC at the U, Miami. Once again, another big-time transfer. If we were ranking these, I'd probably have Jamie Newman up at number 1. I might have D'Eriq King at number 2. That's how good D'Eriq King is, and that's how big of an impact he might be able to make for a Hurricanes program that desperately needs it. For a Hurricanes program that had inconsistent quarterback play all through 2019, Jared Williams had some good moments, just wasn't consistent enough. They played too many. The defense took a step back. The offense couldn't get anything going. D'Eriq King could be the spark they need. 50 passing touchdowns to just 10 interceptions during his time at Houston. Over 1,400 rushing yards and 28 rushing touchdowns during his time at Houston. He played in 4 games in 2019 before sitting out, redshirting the rest of that year, so he does have 1 year of eligibility remaining. He'll be immediately eligible, and that is the spark that Manny Diaz needs in year 2 down at Miami. They struggled in 2019. 6-7, not acceptable. King is talented enough that he could see Miami jump from a 6-win team to as much as an 8 or 9-win team. That's how big of a get this is for the U. Right below him, we have Chase Brice in the ACC as well, transferring to Duke from Clemson. And for a long time, he was one of the bigger quarterback names on the market. He was a guy that everybody was going out for because of how highly touted he was coming out of high school, because he was part of that Clemson system. We saw that with Kelly Bryant, who, yes, of course, had more playing experience during his time at Clemson before he went to Missouri. But Chase Brice didn't really play much for the Tigers. Trevor Lawrence got another year under his belt, wasn't going to play any now. So a smart move to transfer to Duke, who's once again looking for a quarterback after the departure of Quentin Harris. And he'll be playing under David Cutcliffe, who, as we all know, is just a quarterback breeder. He knows how to coach quarterbacks. Eli Manning, Daniel Jones, Quentin Harris last year put up solid numbers. So, big-time quarterback coach and David Cutcliffe. Chase Brice, a lot of talent. He just hasn't had enough time to show it. The only time that you might have seen Chase Brice, and one that was memorable enough, was back in 2018 where he led Clemson to a win over Syracuse down the stretch as their starters continued to get hurt. So they avoided that upset there, kept their national title hopes alive. You'll be able to see a lot more of Chase Brice now in 2020. And then finally, rounding out the list, we have Peyton Ramsey transferring to Northwestern from Indiana. This was one that kind of caught me by surprise because Ramsey played a lot during his time with the Hoosiers. He played a lot last year in 2019. He's eligible immediately. In 3 years as starter or in 3 years of playing time at Indiana, he completed no less than 65% of his passes. Every year he completed 65% or more of his passes. And he accumulated over 800 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. So he's got a very accurate arm. He's a very capable quarterback through the air, but he gives you that slight dual threat ability, even though he certainly doesn't look like it. And Northwestern is a team that really, really needs a quarterback because the whole Hunter Johnson experiment last year, Hunter Johnson was a name that we had on our list last year, it didn't work out. Hunter Johnson failed. Yes, they battled injuries, I know, but the hype surrounding him, the hype surrounding Northwestern, a team that won the West in 2018, just all fell apart early in 2019 as the Wildcats finished 3-9. So getting Peyton Ramsey coming in from another Big Ten school who played well at a Big Ten school is enough to get Northwestern back on track and get them back to that 7 or 8 win mark that they should have hit last year and that they're usually used to hitting under Pat Fitzgerald. So big-time quarterback transfers here, guys. Once again, we didn't rank them. They're not ranked in any order. We just wanted to touch on them. We wanted to touch what they did at their previous schools, what to expect from them in 2020. Because I can guarantee you every single one of these quarterbacks, with the exception of Gatewood, who may or may not play, is going to make a huge immediate impact at these respective schools, some more than others. You've got a guy like Jamie Newman that could lead his Georgia Bulldogs to a national championship, to an SEC title, to a playoff appearance. You've got guys like Felipe Franks and maybe Chase Brice at Duke. They're just hoping to get their teams to a bowl game or just hoping to see their teams improve. They can very well do that. All these quarterbacks are more than capable of doing that. So, big-time transfers, big-time names to watch out for. These are all of them. These are the ones that we thought worthy, though, of discussing here at the Gridiron Expert. So make sure to watch all these guys when the 2020 season rolls around here in a few months. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us what you think about these quarterbacks. Make sure to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. We want to hear from you. We want to debate and discuss with you. So make sure to do that. And as always, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.